at the top. They've got the good matchup. They're at home. But there's so much future value on this team. Bears, whatever you think of the Saints, the Giants, the Colts, the Falcons, the Jets. Like, there are plenty of opportunities to use the Bucs in the future.
The Bucs are a 10.5-point favorite here at home. I think it's a pretty safe thing to say that they will have double-digit spreads multiple times for the rest of the season. So you're not missing out on the one time that you have this opportunity. We talked about that a couple weeks ago with Denver against the Jets, and that it was a different situation. So let's take the Bucs off the board, Josh. Yeah. Where are you going for your survivor pick?
I'm not super comfortable here. I think it's open for discussion. There are 4 teams right now that have just straight odds of winning their game between 76 and 80%. The Pats, the Vikings, the Ravens, and the Cowboys. They are playing the Texans, Lions, Colts, and Giants, respectively. All of those teams have very similar future odds. So the biggest piece for me would be just seeing who's been taking. If the information is publicly available in your pool, or you just want to use consensus information, I just want to see who's being taken the most and sort of go to the opposite side. Because for me, a 76% likelihood and an 80% likelihood are the same. But if New England is 5 times as owned as Dallas, then I just want to go to Dallas. If I'm looking at it right now on the surface, the team that I like the most is probably Baltimore against Indy. They do have some future value. Like an at Pittsburgh is probably going to look pretty good. Home against Pittsburgh in the final week of the season is going to look pretty good. But if I'm looking at everybody here, I think Baltimore is my play.
I have no problem with Baltimore. I'd rather target them out of the division. I think those divisional games are just very difficult, against teams, even though I think they're significantly better than the Bengals and the Steelers. I wouldn't want to mess around with that. So I have no problem. You mentioned there were 4 games, then you dug into 3 of them. I'm going to the other one. I think that Detroit is kind of down there with Houston, and we're going to see that slowly but surely. Minnesota's had some really difficult games. They haven't started great by any stretch, but they're at home here. They're a touchdown favorite. And the thing that I want to talk about, Detroit's secondary is just non-existent. They are dead last in the entire league in passing yards allowed per attempt, 9.8. Say what you want about Kirk Cousins, but he has been pretty damn good to start the season. Dalvin Cook's a little banged up, but whether he's going or Madison or a combination of both, they're going to move the ball. The Vikings cannot afford to lose games like this at home. There is no margin for error. Divisional game makes me a little nervous, but I feel good about getting rid of Minnesota. They're not a long-term hold. And when I think about their schedule, home to Detroit, probably the best opportunity to do that. So with the Texans, with some of these other teams drawing some interest, give me the...
What up? It is the Awesemo Odds NFL betting show. Pete McCarthy with Ben Rossa. And usually we're the early thing, right? You get your breakfast ready. You're talking some NFL betting here, trying to get you some hits. But we've got real NFL football happening this morning as well. The Jets, the Falcons. I can actually watch my Jets since they're on national television, which means everybody else gets to see what they're missing out on in New York Jets football. And the Falcons, for that matter. It's quite the matchup here, Ben.
It's bad. Poor London. I don't know. I mean, they get sacrificed the worst games. It is nice to get a little morning football here on the East Coast. Not going to complain about that, but 45.5 point total. Jets are taking money. As crazy as it sounds, it was 3.5. Now it's 3. I see 2.5s out there in some spots. So we'll see where this closes, but I am excited to sneak a little of the London action during the shows.
Yeah, so we'll try to keep this show moving because I know people want to get locked in as soon as there is NFL football, even if it is the Jets and the Falcons. But give us a like, subscribe, get involved in the chat. You have any questions, some player props you're interested in a given game, as long as we haven't hit it yet, We'll work our way back and mix it into the show. I think we've done a good job of that over the course of the last few weeks. Of course, give us a like, subscribe, keep up with all our shows, our DFS offers, giveaways, and much, much more. And once you do subscribe, hit that notification button to get alerts when our shows go live. Ben and I are with you every Sunday morning now, 9 a.m. Eastern time, hitting some of the better values as far as you could find on the spreads, the lines, who we like maybe to pull off an upset on a given day. And also be sure to check out today's free premium tools and data, which is NFL Week 5 ownership projections for those of you playing DFS. And you can check that out over at Awesemo. So let's dive right into it. And we'll hit the opener, the Jets, the Falcons, Ben. I hate to say it because my number one rule is bet against the Jets at all times, but I do like where the money is going. I do like the Jets on this particular day. Second straight week where they don't have to face the top two receivers on a given team. Last week, Tennessee was without both Julio Jones and A.J. Brown, and now Atlanta doesn't have Calvin Ridley or Russell Gage.
Atlanta's definitely walking wounded in the skill positions, that's for sure. And, it's one of those situations. I think if it goes to 2.5, you can't. I would really not recommend betting the Jets. It's probably a pass at that point because I lean to the Jets too. Like them last week. I think we were both kind of on the possibly that the Jets might play a little better, and they in fact did. Now this is a weird game to me. The thing that stands out, I'll get right to it. I like the under. I think both these teams, and Chad is right all over this. Couple over 1.5 field goals. I think both teams could stall in the red zone. Certainly Atlanta's not a power running type team, and they've lost serious weapons on the outside. And Zach Wilson looked better last week, but I'm still not convinced, that we're going to see that week in and week out. So to me, two struggling teams. I think it'll be a very close, competitive, low scoring game.
Yeah, I did see that the Falcons were without one of their nickel backs. So maybe a matchup that Jamison Crowder could take advantage. They're down to their third string at that spot. What's been amazing for Atlanta, maybe they found something offensively last week, but what Cordero Patterson has been doing really is something else. He's become their absolute number one threat. But one guy they haven't really gotten going yet is the rookie Kyle Pitts.
No doubt. Maybe this is it. I mean, at times it seemed like he's had flashes, but I don't know if it's a concept of, they've got Ridley, they've got these other guys and they haven't utilized him to the fullest, or maybe, a lot of people do say that tight end is one of the positions that takes the longest to onboard in terms of the transition from college to the NFL. So I am interested to that. They're going to have to get the backs involved. Mike Davis, you mentioned Cordero. We talk about him over on the Awesemo season-long fantasy football channel all the time because what a start to the season. I still think this Atlanta team is really missing those key components. It's definitely going to affect the bottom line in terms of points that they put up today.
Tyler throws this prop out in the chat. Elijah Moore, the Jets rookie receiver, over 2.5 receptions. I will say the Jets have their full complement of receivers here. They were banged up earlier in the season. Do you see room for Elijah Moore to get at least a little involved in the offense today?
Definitely lean that way as well. Looking at one of my favorite tools, obviously, we've just developed it, is our player prop tools over at Awesemo. And, it's recognized that Elijah Moore's got some opportunities today. I definitely think when you look at him, he could be someone that's going to, have a real strong second half to the season. So I don't love the minus 145, but at the same time, I do think he's going to have ample targets to push over that number.
And one other part of this game, while you may not love a whole lot of value as far as the spread goes right now, I do like the Jets to win this game outright.
Okay.
Plus 120. That's not bad if you feel confident that the Jets can pull this off.
I mean, if it gets, like I said, if it gets inside 3, it's money line or pass if you want to go to the Jets. I don't see any reason to lay, minus 110 when you're getting 2.5 points that probably aren't going to help you a ton. The key number there is 3, of course. So I get it. Listen, the Jets cashed a lot of people some nice money line tickets last week, and there's a very real chance that they can actually rip off a couple wins here before their bye week.
The Canadian cigar guy, a little concerned about a rookie quarterback in the UK. The lights could be too bright. I mean, it's London or wherever they're playing out there in England. I mean, they're going to be wearing all the other team jerseys of the other 30 NFL teams. Look, Zach Wilson, he got booed in his first start at MetLife Stadium. Might be good to be a little quieter across the pond there. So, look, that's not going to be a big concern as far as I'm concerned. Let's get to the Packers and the Bengals. Bengals getting 3 points, a home dog with Aaron Rodgers' club coming in. The Packers, they've been rolling. They were impressive last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Got Randall Cobb, that old friend of Aaron Rodgers, involved in the offense for a couple of touchdowns. Joe Mixon is expected to play for the Cincinnati side in this game. They get a little extra rest coming off the Thursday night win, just barely, over the Jacksonville Jaguars. What jumps out to you here? I mean, I do see over under 51. I think this is an under game. That's probably what I feel best about going into this.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth. I definitely think that the Packers, they look on paper a little trappy, but I was kind of on board with it. And it was just a product of schedule. They sleptwalk through week 1, but they've rebounded nicely at San Francisco. That's a good win. They've held serve in Lambeau. And then I look at the Cincinnati team, and they're 3-1, and that's very nice. But they've really played nobody. They beat Minnesota in overtime. They lost to the Bears. Then they beat Pittsburgh, who seems like they're really struggling, and they beat Jacksonville on the Thursday night game that you referenced. So I just think this is a pretty big step up in competition. I will say, though, Jair Alexander not being there, Jamar Chase is going to have ample opportunities over the top. We've seen him. Higgins is back. Mixon's going to play. Cincinnati's at home. It's really, if Cincinnati's as good as they are saying they are, this is a game you got to win for them. So I don't really like the Packers as much as I did. I don't think I have the guts to take the live dog at home here. I am with you. I think it could be a little under this number. Nothing crazy, but both teams maybe lean on the run a little more than people expect.
I like Cincinnati a little bit in this game as well. And, look, the Bengals weren't exactly impressive against Jacksonville, especially they walk through that first half, but at least they were able to, turn it on when they needed to. I mean, this is the Cincinnati Bengals. It's been a losing franchise for a long time. Usually you don't have the ability to flip that switch in the way that they did in the second half.
Oh, no doubt. And Burrow's been very impressive. He's just good. There's no doubt about it. I still think that, there is an element of how good is this offensive line, a product of the schedule, and they're going against, Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers and these guys are going to cause problems that I don't think a lot of teams they've seen so far will. But having said that, again, Cincinnati, they're healthier than it seems. They're at home. It's going to be a competitive game. It's only a 3-point spread. So I know it seems like, Packers are worlds better. That may not be the case.
That should be a fun game to peek in on over the course of the day. In the NFC North, the Minnesota Vikings, a 10-point favorite on the Detroit Lions. The Vikings, they couldn't manage to score 10 points last week against the Cleveland Browns and, what's left of Baker Mayfield's body at this point. But the Vikings, the defense hasn't been very good. They held up last week against Cleveland, but as I mentioned, Mayfield a bit compromised in that game. The Lions have hung in a lot of these games. Is this biting off a little bit more than Kirk Cousins and company can chew?
So I think if you wanted to bet Minnesota, you kind of missed it. This opened at 7.5. It's gone all the way up to 10. I definitely like Minnesota for survivor if you're looking for one of the obvious picks. I do think they're going to win the game at home, and it's just a product of Detroit, particularly their secondary. They're dead last in the league in passing yards allowed per attempt, almost 10 per attempt. That's really, really bad. But at the same time, you brought up Minnesota's not exactly a juggernaut on their defensive side. They're bottom 10 in both passing and rushing defense right now. So I worry about where they're at. Dalvin Cook is banged up. They still have Thielen and Jefferson, and they will move the ball, but kind of think this one, unlike the first two, this one could get going. I wouldn't be stunned to see kind of a shootout back and forth.
Yeah, they're indoors in Minnesota, and we know the Vikings, they have threats outside and weren't able to take advantage of them much. But I think last week, look, Cleveland's got a really good defense, really good pass rush. They're kind of a unique team to be going up against right now. We'll get into their situation a little bit later. But 10 points, you're looking at a lot. It is a division game. These are two teams that are relatively familiar with each other, even if it is a new coaching staff there in Detroit and a new quarterback, of course, as well. I'll take the 10. I think that's a lot of points that you're getting there. Do you see a whole lot of value one way or the other here?
Yeah, I mean, again, I certainly, if you would have told me I could get Minnesota around a touchdown, I would be on that side. But now that the line has moved all the way up, I'd probably say, at this point, I'm going to wait. And if it ticks to 10.5, I'll jump immediately on Detroit. We also want to see Hawkinson and Swift. It looks like they are going to try to give it a go. I mean, Jared Goff needs these guys in the lineup. They don't have the luxury of having a ton of depth, particularly on the outside. So if we get the injury news that the Lions are as healthy as they can be, I definitely think I'll grab the 10 more than lay the 10 at this point.
And the Lions, they do have some offensive line issues. Penei Sewell, as of earlier this week, isn't expected to play, and they're without their All-Pro center as well. So, a couple of misses there for Detroit as far as that offensive line goes. Next up, this is a game that I probably flip-flopped on about 40 times when I was doing this last night, and that is the Denver Broncos in Pittsburgh, a 1.5-point favorite on the Steelers. You look at the data. I always like looking at the numbers and power rankings to some degree and try to figure out, okay, what's a fair spread based on what these teams have accomplished so far to some degree statistically. And it tells you kind of lean towards Pittsburgh, especially getting 1.5 points, but it's so hard to watch the Steelers. And I watched the entirety of that game last week against Green Bay and feel comfortable at all thinking that offensive line is going to stand up against Von Miller and this Broncos defense and protect a quarterback that not only has a pec injury, but now has hip issues, according to Mike Tomlin. He's 39 years old. He can't move at all. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger, he looks dusty, as Eric Lindquist and I were talking about earlier this week. So, man, I really had a hard time with this game. I ended up on Denver, but I wouldn't really touch this. Is there anything that you like about this particular game?
Yeah, I like that the total is under 40. That's my kind of game. I love these ugly, disgusting offensive outputs. And I don't know how we don't get that here, because I still think that Pittsburgh's defense, particularly against a Denver team that I think they're fine, and Bridgewater is a serviceable quarterback, but I don't look at them and think, oh, explosive attack. I think Pittsburgh has the distinct advantage. And then on the other side, I mean, Denver, everyone has the advantage over Pittsburgh's offense right now. They're just not functioning. So I look at the game. I mean, I don't know if I want to go under 39.5, even though if I had to make a play on the total, it would be under. I think Pittsburgh at home, I'm still going to give them a little credit. Again, Denver was a team, they were 3-0. And I think we all kind of realized, okay, you play the Giants, Jacksonville, and the Jets. Now you play Baltimore, and we saw what happened. They lost 23-7. Pittsburgh is not Baltimore, but I think they're probably in the middle of all those teams that they've played. I give the slight edge to the Steelers, but if we were ranking the games, this might be the last game that I would want to bet on the entire card.
I hated this game. I did not want to pick it at all. I was trying to find excuses to go to Pittsburgh, and it's like, well, all right, so you have TJ Watt. He's healthy in this game. The Broncos, they don't exactly have a dynamic offensive line here. And maybe Chase Claypool kind of unlocks something for the Pittsburgh offense. He is back and going to be out there on the field for the Steelers after missing last week. It's so hard when the eye test is as bad as it's been for a team like Pittsburgh. And I tried to be patient with them. They had the big win over Buffalo, looked bad a couple of weeks. I went with them last week against Green Bay. But when you see it week after week after week, and it's the same problems with that offensive line, it's really hard to get behind him, especially when, Teddy Bridgewater is reasonably capable quarterback, even if he was struggling even before he was concussed against Baltimore last week.
No doubt. I mean, again, I think that Pittsburgh still has the ability at times. It's not sustained, but it's a tough one to back this team. You mentioned Big Ben. It's as bad as it seems, and I'm not sure it's going to get much better.
And one thing I will throw out there, the Awesemo betting tool, which you can check out, it is free at awesemo.com. It does like the Broncos in this game. So if you like to look inside the numbers, have something crunch out the simulations and the possibilities, that is one that is heading towards Denver and one of the stronger picks and percentages and return on investment that you're going to find there. And of course, you get access to all the great Awesemo Plus tools and content for nearly every DFS sport out there with an Awesemo Plus weekly pass for $29.95. This includes full access to all the premium content and tools on awesemo.com, including player projections, ownership projections, a premium Slack channel, lineup builder, and much, much more. And if you're a new user of Awesemo Plus Platinum, you can take advantage of the promo code we have for this show, which is Betting Show. All caps, one word, Betting Show. That gets you 25% off your first week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. And there's a lot happening in sports right about now. You had MMA yesterday, of course, baseball playoffs going on, NBA, NHL going to be firing up soon. So if you love playing DFS, even beyond the NFL, you're going to get a lot of good information there to help you out. You can find the link to activate this coupon in the description of the video below. The Miami Dolphins getting 10 points as they run across the state there in Florida to Tampa Bay. Not exactly a dynamic performance by the Bucs against the New England Patriots, but Tom Brady's crew doing enough in that game of the year, whatever you want to call it, billing that it was, the big return for Tom Brady. 10 points for a Bucs secondary that has really been struggling, but it's Jacoby Brissett on the other side for Miami. How do you set this one up, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, there's always is there going to be a hangover effect, a letdown spot? I just look at Miami, though. I don't know about this team. They're really struggling, and I don't think it's Brissett particularly. Like, I don't think it's a huge difference who's under center. I think it's just a product of a team that's really doesn't have much going on. They are going to be, everyone is a virtual zero in the running game against Tampa. Tampa's first in the league at stopping the run. So now it's like, what can they do on the outside? And we go to the outside. Well, Will Fuller is hurt again. That's just a perpetual evergreen statement. Devontae Parker, it looks like he's going to go, but he's banged up already. So you've got Waddle out there. I worry a little about Miami being able to exploit what you already mentioned is a terrible Tampa secondary. So if they can't do that, I mean, on the other side, Tampa obviously has the advantage. They're going to put up their points. Feels about right. I actually, if I had to take a play, I'd lay the points here. This is one of the big, favorites, I think, rolls today.
You think the Bucs will be able to roll against Miami Dolphins, and like Richard Sherman's getting his feet wet in that Tampa Bay secondary, so they're hoping that he can make a difference there. I think Miami, one of the things that's been kind of disappointing is this defense. I know they had the pick 6 against Derek Carr a couple of weeks ago, and they were able to hang in that game with the Raiders. But this is supposed to be one of the better defenses. They had made some progress under Brian Flores over the past couple of years, but kind of like Washington, we just, I haven't seen that next step be taken here.
No, and it's the kind of thing too. They don't have the luxury of being average. Like if their defense is average, they don't have enough offensively. And right now, I don't think Miami's an awful defense by any stretch, but they're not elite. They're not top end that are going to keep them in games like this where they're clearly overmatched. I don't think anyone's arguing that. So unless they can deploy something that's going to cause some problems, or they can, unlock Waddle, who has one of the lowest ADOTs in the entire NFL right now, I worry exactly where Miami's at. Disappointing effort against Indy last week. They're close to being 0-4. Like that, they had a 1-point win in week 1 and they've done nothing since. So I have a feeling it's going to be a rough showing today.
And that was the Patriots fumbled the game away at the end. Really should have had that game. Next up, the New Orleans Saints are visiting the Washington football team. The Saints, a 2.5-point favorite. We did see them on the road as a favorite a few weeks back, lay an egg against Carolina. Supposed to be a strong defense, I'm just talking about with the Washington football team, but we just haven't seen it at all through 4 weeks this season. The Saints, they are inconsistent. It's kind of amazing. You go back to last week's game for New Orleans, though, if you're trying to, come up with a script of what they have to do to beat the Giants. Alvin Kamara saw a career-high 26 carries, and Jameis Winston didn't turn the ball over, and yet they still lost that game to the New York Giants. You think if they have those two things, they could beat just about anybody. It does show that there are some issues here for New Orleans, even if they aren't, in that terrible spot going down to Washington this week. I do like New Orleans a little bit here, even given the 2.5.
I'm with you. I'm still a believer that Washington should be able to figure something out defensively, but it's not happening right now. So until it does, I think I have to just go to the other side here. And I really would hope after a game, you just mentioned it. You tell me those stats, you would think New Orleans rolled. But if I told you that Kamara had no targets, you would be obviously very confused, as was I. So I get that they want to utilize him on the ground, but you got to find a way for him and Jameis to start coexisting, because Kamara on the outside is much more productive than Kamara up the middle. I don't think there's any argument there. And that is one of the big things that I think we need to see today. I think we will see that a little more, certainly. And until Michael Thomas comes back, they've got to get Kamara involved. I think they do that. I think they'll do enough. I've said all year, I don't think Fitzpatrick going down was that big a deal for this Washington offense. I still think when push comes to shove today, New Orleans will get it done, though.
I really do like Taylor Heineke. He might be one of my favorite players to watch in the league. I mean, he's just winging it, man. He's just throwing ducks in the end zone, giving his guys a chance to make plays. But sometimes that stuff doesn't pay off. And you have that game where you throw 3 interceptions. And we saw one like it a couple of weeks ago up in Buffalo. I don't know how long he can have maybe some of the luck on his side that we saw last week in Atlanta. I mean, he's throwing the ball across the field. He's doing all those things there. No. Oh yeah, kind of plays. Even that Thursday night game against the Giants. It's kind of a wild ride with him. Not unlike a young Ryan Fitzpatrick.
No, I mean he's giving these guys opportunities. McLaurin is going to be, we're going to talk about him on the DFS show coming up next and whatnot. But both these teams are thin. Again, Michael Thomas, the loss on the outside. I mean, who do the Saints really have at this point? They've got Callaway, they've got Deontay Harris. It's not, your boy from Hofstra Colston isn't walking through the door. I really think they've got to utilize Kamara in this passing game to give them more balance.
No. I like the Marcus Colston shout out.
Yeah, I had to get that in there for you.
We had there were about 4 Hofstra players that had long NFL careers on those last few teams before the Hofstra football was no more. Philadelphia Eagles visiting the Carolina Panthers. Eagles getting 3 in this spot. Carolina, I guess you can look at it one of 2 ways. They ran into a buzzsaw in the Dallas Cowboys, or they were finally exposed, not going up against a rookie quarterback or bad Jameis, as it were, a couple weeks back. This game's in Carolina, not much of a home field advantage in Charlotte. The Eagles are getting 3 points. I do like Philadelphia in this spot. Christian McCaffrey is not expected to play. And another piece is the Carolina offensive line is banged up. They're going to be without their left tackle, Cameron Irving. Their left guard just hit the IR with a hamstring injury, and they've barely been protecting Sam Darnold as it is this year. It's one of the reasons he's been putting up 5 rushing touchdowns over the course of this season. So I do like Philadelphia in this spot, and I'll take the points. So I'll lay the line at plus 150. I like it all for Philadelphia here.
I'm with you. I really thought that, Dallas was one of, if not my favorite bet last week. I thought that Carolina was in a pretty bad spot. That game wasn't nearly as close as that final score.
It was not. Mm-hmm.
It was not. So I look at this Carolina, they've got some things, but the strain on DJ Moore right now, Chuba is not able, listen, it's nothing wrong with him. You just can't replicate what McCaffrey means to this offense. So I look at them. I also think that last week was the last week. The secret is out now. Everyone is talking about Sam Darnold. They're not going to let him run the ball in the red zone like that. Teams will now be keying on that a little more, and they will stop it because Darnold, that is a great weapon that they've utilized because no one's paying attention. And I just look at Philly. It's hard to gauge exactly where they're at, but I do think that the dynamic nature of Jalen Hurts is something that this Carolina defense just hasn't seen because there's not that many guys that can do that. So I like Jalen Hurts. I like his rushing yards over 45.5 today. I think they get him on the outside. Miles Sanders has been an absolute zero. I don't think they're going to go to him again today. I think Hurts will do enough to keep this game close. I actually think Philly's very live to win as well.
Yeah. Okay. We both like Philadelphia in this spot at Carolina. And I was a fan of Carolina going into last week, but that defense, they don't have Gilmore yet. They're not adding these pieces yet to help out. And like I said, they do have some injury issues to be careful of on that offensive line. Jacksonville at home against Tennessee. Everything going on with the Jaguars over the last week and a half. I guess we could throw it out the window. They get an extra long week after Thursday night football, but I'm sure it doesn't feel like a whole lot of rest here. I do like the home dog in this spot. I just think the Tennessee Titans are a trash football team. I don't think they're very good. Everybody gets all obsessed about Derrick Henry. They've won some games in the playoffs the last couple of years. Whoop-de-doo. The defense hasn't been good. You're only going to be able to run the ball for so long. Even though the Jaguars aren't exactly a team to have a ton of confidence in, I'll take the points in this particular spot and don't expect to see a whole lot of points put up on the board here.
Yeah, this one is tricky. I'm on the other side here. I still think, and listen, we're gonna find out. I think this is a true swing game for the Titans.
Tell me I'm wrong, man. It's okay.
No, I mean, listen, it's one of these situations that when I looked at it, Tennessee is so banged up, and when I saw the line, to me, they really budgeted for all those guys being out, and I think that as we got closer to kickoff, some of them, made their way back here and there. Obviously, they're not at full strength. There's no doubt they could use Julio, but AJ Brown comes back, some of the linemen and whatnot. In week 1, they got exposed. And I thought, wow, we'll see what they do. I was impressed. They went into Seattle and they won that game. They weren't exposed by the Jets, but that's a bad loss. If you lose to the Jets and the Jaguars back to back, that's a crisis situation. So I think they will do enough today. I'm not going to try to quantify. I think there's a reasonable chance that Jacksonville is just straight done, that they've quit. there's also a reasonable chance that somehow maybe this galvanizes the locker room. I have no idea, but we're going to find out. Clearly, they've got their own set of problems, and there's a chance that coach has just completely lost the team.
I do like that, the way these different narratives play out, right? If Jacksonville comes back and win, it's, it's us against them, and then maybe being the coaching staff to some degree. If they go out and lose, well, they quit on the guy. And, one of those two storylines will be on all the talk shows tomorrow. But leading into the game, it doesn't always help you out. It sounds like there's a lot of issues there in Jacksonville, and I'm not going to dispute that. But that doesn't mean that a team can't try to turn it into a positive, show up and put out a good performance.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, I thought Jacksonville actually played pretty well on Thursday. They did some things that were impressive. They utilized Robinson. They're getting Lawrence involved on the ground. Losing Shark hurts, no doubt about it. And I do think they'll keep Derrick Henry somewhat honest. When push comes to shove, I still think the Titans are in a different tier. I still think they're going to win the South. All of these things, if they're true, you got to find a way to win this game and even cover this number. I think not a blowout, but I do think Tennessee will get it done on the road today.
What about, daily fantasy? I know this is such a big thing this week. Do you have a lot of Derrick Henry going?
I mean, I think that the narrative around him similar to last week. Oh, Derrick Henry's going to have 400 yards. And it's like, well, these teams, with them on the outside, they're going to stuff the box and really just think, okay, let Tannehill over the top. Let's see what A.J. Brown can do. I think he's fine. We're going to discuss him in depth, but he's always so popular and he's so expensive that it's not a plug and play like some of these other situations where teams are a lot more dynamic than the Titans offense.
Of course, you can turn big plays into paydays with BetMGM. New BetMGM users that deposit at least $10 using the link in the video description and make their first bet get 3 free months of Awesemo Plus Platinum. 3 free months. It's taking you all the way to close to the holidays here. It gives you full access to everything we have to offer in DFS, season-long fantasy football, and sports betting. New customers start with a risk-free bet of up to $1,000 upon first deposit. Join the king of sportsbooks. Offer valid in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Michigan, Nevada, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, Washington, D.C., and West Virginia. Terms and conditions apply. And actually undersold that. I mean, you're going through January 10th here. You got, the first week of the NFL playoffs in the mix as well. When you look ahead 3 months from now, free Awesemo Plus Platinum if you're a first-time user there at BetMGM. The Houston Texans taking on the New England Patriots. No Bill O'Brien, Bill Belichick rivalry, anything like that anymore here. And Houston did have some success against Belichick over the last couple of years, but kind of a different Houston team here with Davis Mills at quarterback. You're getting 8.5 points. New England did look good Sunday Night Football against this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. What do you make of this one, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Houston, they better have hit rock bottom, because if 40-0 isn't rock bottom, they got even more problems. But they're back at home. They'll play a lot better today. To me, it's as simple as this. The Patriots always chameleon, and they said, we're not going to try to run the ball against Tampa, and that was smart. I think that Harris comes back today in a big way. They control it on the ground. They do enough. They win the game. But if I had to bet it, when you're just talking sub 40 total and you're getting 8.5 points, I take the Texans. I think it'll be just a normal game where the Patriots win the game, but it's not a blowout, 21-17 type game. Give me the points. We had a question from Chad. Jacoby Myers over 60.5. I think that's fine. I do worry a little that, the Patriots are out ahead and they're very conservative, but he's still the alpha receiver. And eventually he will find the end zone. The guy hasn't scored since college. It's ridiculous. But I do like him if you want to go that route.
And this is the lowest over-under of the season at 39.5, and I'm with you to take the points. Chicago Bears, they're getting a lot of points, 5.5 in Las Vegas. We know Vegas, look, it's not the greatest home field advantage yet, and I would think there will be quite a few Bears fans that make their way to Chicago. We know Justin Fields taking over officially now for Chicago as their starting quarterback. Hasn't exactly been impressive yet. They beat the Lions last week, but so much of that was behind the running of David Montgomery. He's now out for a few weeks. Vegas, kind of a disappointing effort against the Chargers on Monday Night Football. I love taking points, and I'll take points all day, every day. And you're getting 5.5 here for a Bears team that still is a pretty good defense, and maybe finally starts to embrace Fields and kind of starts to move this playbook towards things that he could do rather than the Andy Dalton playbook now.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that a lot when you're taking 9 sacks, there's clearly something wrong, but you already talked about earlier in the show. I think Cleveland is really, really
Mm-hmm.
good. And I don't think going to Cleveland and looking horrible is that big of deal. And we saw that they looked a lot better against Detroit. They'll look a lot better against Vegas as well. I think this is a pretty competitive matchup. I worry a little that, his safety valve is just gone. They're really going to need Williams in the backfield to provide a lot of what Montgomery did, because you don't want Fields just taking all of this on. I think that's a little early behind a shaky offensive line, but I still look at the Raiders. They've had some impressive wins. I think they're a fine team, but I don't think they were as good as everybody else did to begin the season, and maybe they regress a little. We'll see if they can contain Waller. You've got Ruggs over the top, but to me, it's just a competitive game. I think it could be back and forth. So I'm with you. Getting points, it levels the playing field. It's not that, if it was pick 'em, of course I'd lean to Las Vegas,
Sure.
but it's not. I'm getting 5.5 points and I will take them.
This is what makes it tough. When you
Of
start
course.
getting the points involved, you have to have these picks where you feel terrible about it. I mean, how much were we gritting our teeth as we're both like the Jets last week against Tennessee? And you're like, oh man, like you don't want to pick this team that's been shut out 2 weeks. But look, when you have these points involved, it matters. It does play into it all. And Jets ended up outright winning, as it were. But sometimes you have to make the move. And sometimes, it doesn't work out. And the Buffalo Bills paced the Houston
Yes.
Texans. But look, this is the fun of it all, and you try to figure it out and make it through day by day. I think we're in agreement on this game, but I guess we'll see. I really like the Browns in this spot. I know Baker Mayfield has really struggled with his accuracy, just 53% passing over the last 2 weeks. It comes out this week. He's playing with a torn labrum in his non-throwing shoulder. It's affecting him. How much should it? And there should be some kind of adjustment you can make there, I think. But look, the Browns don't really lean on Baker Mayfield in this passing game as their number one. This is a defense, run the ball kind of football team. They are well coached with Kevin Stefanski. I think the Chargers look like they are well coached, but still, rookie head coach, you got to see a little bit of what's happening there. Browns are getting points, 2.5 at a place that has no home field advantage there in LA. I really like the Browns in this spot behind that defense. I feel good about this game. How about you, Ben?
So the thing that I took away, the Chargers 30th in the league in rushing yards allowed per attempt at 5.3. This is Nick Chubb's time to really have a game here. They should lean on him. He should have, 20 plus carries, in my opinion, here. Should hit the century mark. I like over 87.5 yards for him in the prop market. I like Cleveland in the game. I think it'll be a very competitive game. And I'm going to give a kind of a hot take here. I'm going to say that these teams play again this year. I think both these teams are worthy of getting in the playoffs, and I wouldn't be stunned to see them meet up again when the stakes are a lot higher. I really respect the Chargers. I love that coach. Seems to know what he's doing. Derwin James, Herbert, they've got everything you want. I think Cleveland's just a little ahead of them. And the nicest thing, and you said this, what Cleveland wants to do naturally is where the weak spot actually is. They want to run the ball. That's where the Chargers struggle in stopping it. I think Chubb leads them to a slight upset today.
Matchups matter. They matter big time, how teams come together. And that's where you got to go beyond the data a little bit. And just because the data leans in one direction, maybe there's a part of the game that you really got to focus on. But this is definitely a strength versus weakness situation when you look at this Browns running game against this Chargers rushing defense. Fun game. I think most of the country will be tuning into this later. Cowboys favored by a touchdown on the Giants. The Giants were all irked because Troy Aikman spoke the truth and said that the Giants aren't in the Cowboys class these days. And if you've seen Dallas this year, it's certainly true. 1+ for the Giants. Saquon Barkley has started to look like himself. A couple of really big plays to pull that one out against the New Orleans Saints last week, including a big, 52-yard reception touchdown, maybe a little longer than that. One thing I like about Dallas, though, this defense is very opportunistic. Remember, we went into this season when they played the Chargers. I remember you asked me, Ben, you're like, do you trust this Cowboys defense to make a big stop if they need? And I said, no, but even if they don't make big stops, they find a way to turn other teams over. Dan Quinn's defense has been very opportunistic. Maybe Dan Quinn ends up being one of the big acquisitions this offseason. I guess we'll see. I think Ezekiel Elliott has looked as good as he has in years. Even laying 7 points here, I feel pretty good about what the Cowboys defense can do against a guy who's been a turnover machine and, yes, is coming off a big game in Daniel Jones. How do you feel about this one?
Interesting game. Certainly the Giants, they got everyone's attention with a win last week, got up off the mat. Before this one, it feels about right. I think that the Cowboys are an interesting teaser piece. If you're going that route, I do think they're going to win the game. I don't know if I want to lay a touchdown per se. You mentioned it. I thought that two things. One, they were really good against the Eagles in containing Hurts. I think that's going to hurt because Daniel Jones has burned some teams, and the Cowboys defense is specifically set up to not allow that to happen. If they force him to throw from the pocket, he's looked better, but I still would take my chances. Certainly I'm taking Dak over him, 100 out of 100 times. And Chad is saying CD Lamb overs. Yeah, I have no problem with that. I think that they will have their opportunities. More of a ground game to me, though. I'm with you, Zeke, Pollard. Cowboys do enough. I think it probably lands around 7, though.
And remember the Giants, if Daniel Jones does have to throw from the pocket, Darius Slayton, Sterling Shepard not expected to play today. So, look, you're losing some of those weapons, even if Kenny Golladay and Saquon Barkley were able to pick it up last week. John Ross had a big play for the Giants, but it's hard to do that week after week after week, especially against a Dallas team that has really looked impressive this far this year. The Awesemo Hall of Fame. Are you in it? Are you aware of it? Again, and you play DFS, go to awesemo.com/avatar, download the Awesemo picture there. You can throw it up as your avatar if you're playing DFS. And if you place in the top 3 of a contest with over 5,000 contestants, not only do you win big, but you can tweet the win at Awesemo, HOF, at Awesemo, basically the Hall of Fame account, and you win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Free month there. So you can try to get back up there again. So be sure to get on that. I always think, too, just having that Awesemo avatar there, it's kind of intimidating. I think it helps you out a little bit when other people see, like, oh, this person, they know what they're doing here, and they start making bad decisions, or their players just start dropping balls. I mean, I think it's a real thing.
Definitely a factor. That's what we do here. No, it's been really exciting. You rock the avatar, join the community. That's what it's all about at the end of the day. You make some money, but why not have some fun along the way?
And we will have some fun along the way. All right, 2 more games to go here, and then we'll send you off to watch the game in London. San Francisco 49ers getting 5.5 points against Arizona. Another spot where a team is going to the rookie quarterback. This because Jimmy Garoppolo is hurt. Trey Lance gets his chance here. What'd you make of Lance? There's a lot of good, a lot of bad in that first game when he was thrown into it. But, with a week to game plan for this guy, and what do you do? You look at the over-under on rushing yards, 40.5 for Trey Lance. He's an exciting player, and I'm sure they have more than just a few gadget plays ready to go for him.
No doubt. I think that it could be really bad if you have the wrong coaching staff, but I believe that the Niners have the right coaching staff to really utilize this guy. And one thing for the Cardinals, in a lot of ways, you have the game plan totally different. He can do things that Jimmy G simply cannot do. So if you're able to utilize that, there'll probably be some more mistakes, and it's less conservative by the Niners now. At the same time, I think they're a lot more dangerous if they can really tap in to Lance's potential. So I'm excited to see this. I'd be lying if I said I'm really confident in how he plays, but I do think they actually, ironically, probably have a better chance to be both blown out in horrific fashion and also to win the game with Trey Lance. I think it ups the variance on both sides.
No doubt. I mean, that's the thing with Jimmy Garoppolo, right? It's kind of steady. When he had the great defense a couple of years ago, he was able to help them into the Super Bowl. But yes, you're going to have a lot more of the ups, the downs. We saw it in the second half last week. He won't have George Kittle. That's a pretty big option in the passing game. That will not be a part of things here for San Francisco. One thing you've thrown out in the past is that, against teams with a good pass rush, sometimes you like the quarterback on these, player props to pick up some rushing yards because they're getting flushed out of the pocket. We know Arizona is a tremendous pass rush. Do you end up seeing Trey Lance running a lot in this game because of that?
I think so. I think that's a sharp call by you. And it's also a product, in addition to the pass rush, I feel like with rookies in general, when they don't, they're not fully up to speed, they just rely on okay, let me just pull it down and run. I know how to run, obviously. You just rely on your athleticism. We've seen that time and time again. And I think we see it both ways. A guy like Kyler, now that he's really mastered this offense, he doesn't run nearly as much. He doesn't have to. And I think Trey Lance, he's at the beginning of this journey. I have a feeling more often than not, he's going to say, screw my third read. Let me just pull it down and run.
And sometimes that's tough. And those are, those back-breaking plays when it's 3rd and 8, you think you got the guy locked in, then he escapes, gets the first down. I think what's interesting about this game is just where the spread is. When I went through, I thought, Arizona by a field goal, it's at 5.5 right now. So I like taking the extra couple of points there, even if, with how explosive this Arizona offense is, 5.5 might not mean all that much if you look at it from that perspective. But I'll take San Francisco. Where do you lean in this game?
So I'm going to stick with kind of what I said before, and I don't want people to say, oh, we must love them. I'll take the Niners, but I'll take them on the money line at plus 200 because I think that the points are not that valuable here. I think San Francisco will have a real chance to win the game, or Arizona will stop Lance and they will win going away, where 5.5 is not going to help me. So give me 2-1 on my money. I'll rather roll the dice than take the points.
You're not going to feel good if it's 14-0 Cardinals in the first quarter and Trey Lance is playing from behind, and that's where the scenario where things get really bad and snowball. But I'm with you on that. Take the 5.5. I think it's a capable defense for San Francisco, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Trey Lance can do, man. I think he's got the ability to make some really big plays in this game and keep the 49ers very much in the mix there. Of course, give us a like, subscribe, keep up with all our shows. DFS offers giveaways, much, much more. And once you do subscribe, hit that notification button. You get alerts when our shows go live here on Awesemo Odds. We're doing this show with you every Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern time. You miss it live, it's up on YouTube a couple minutes later, so you can check it out later in the day and get some info and run down some of the best matchups of the game, best values, best plays. The Buffalo Bills, Sunday Night Football, they get their shot at the Kansas City Chiefs. They've been beating up on the dregs of the NFL the last couple of weeks, and boy, have they ever. I mean, it has just been the Bills romping over teams of late, and now they get this Chiefs team that looks suspect. The Chiefs defense has allowed the second most points in the NFL coming into this week. And now they get this Bills offense that's been rolling, averaging 39 points per game over the last 3 weeks. I don't love this matchup for Kansas City. I understand they're going to be a team that has a lot to prove, and I'm getting points with the Bills. I mean, I like this spot for Josh Allen. This is very much a measuring stick kind of game for both of these teams. Where are they right now in this very moment? Great matchup. Also the highest over-under we've seen in the NFL this year at 56.5 points.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see the game. Kansas City's defense, I feel pretty comfortable saying this, is not championship level. They have no chance unless they make some serious strides between now and the playoffs. They are not a good team defensively. Now, they can score with anybody. The Bills, it's tough because I think they're uniquely set up to just murder bad teams. But when they get against good teams, it's a little different. It's in Arrowhead. I think right now, though, the thing I feel most confident with, and sometimes all you got to do is find the thing you feel most confident in and go from there, is that the Chiefs defense is just awful. And I think that the way they're set up, they're dead last in rushing yards allowed per attempt. They're not much better in passing yards. They're 30th. I think even the combination of Moss and Singletary, Josh Allen, I think Diggs tonight is going to explode and have a real big game. They may outscore him ultimately, and maybe Mahomes will do what he does. But I feel most confident that the Bills will score. So I have to go with that. I have to go with the Bills. Give me plus 120. They just win the game.
I'm with you. I think the Bills win this game tonight as well. But boy, this is some matchup. I mean, this is going to be a lot of fun. This is going to be like arena football potentially.
Yeah, it's going to be. I mean, I think people will overreact no matter what happens. But clearly for the Bills, I think it's more important that the Bills win the game than the Chiefs. The Chiefs know who they are. Bills, you gotta get them while they're down here. They should be able to compete in this game.
Lock it up. I love the Bills and Browns this week. I've hit all my lock it up so far when we've done this show the last 3 weeks. I'll take both of them in this spot. Bills, Browns. Really feel good about those two teams to win outright.
I like it. I'm going to piggyback on you with the Browns. That's one of my favorites as well. I'm going to go, and this may look dumb, I'm going to go with the Bears. I think that the Bears getting the 5.5 today, just going to be a very, very back and forth type game. I wanted to put Tennessee in there, but they scare me. And our lock it ups have been great. Dallas last week rolled. We were on Carolina. Some real good stuff here. So let's see what we can do. Hopefully the dogs are barking because I have a feeling, I haven't tallied it up, it seems like you and me took the points on a lot of games today.
Yes, very much so. And that wasn't great last week. The favorites were 9-7, but overall this season, the dogs have been pretty good. And I always like taking the points, man. When in doubt, take the points in these spots. And you see some big points on the board on this particular week as we hit week 5 now. This has been the Awesemo Betting Show. It is presented by BetMGM. We appreciate them. This is the Awesemo Odds channel. And of course, we also have the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel, which you should be subscribing to as well, the Awesemo DFS channel, NFL Deeper Dive starts on the DFS channel at the top of the hour, and that'll be followed by Live Before Lock, taking you right up to the start of the early games on this Sunday. And we'll get you, you can go check out what's happening in London. Do we have a score on that, Ben? Are you up on it? Did we miss anything big?
I went blackout. I have no idea what's happened to the Jets just yet.
Look at you. See, that's smart. We watch it on demand, fast forward through the commercials. We'll all be locked up before we know it. We appreciate you guys being active in the chat. For Ben Rossa, I'm Pete McCarthy. Happy betting.
What did the Jets do?